All right. Barak Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shai, Barak Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shai, Barak Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shai, Bahasam, Harakak Kodash. Also giving double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well, saying peace and blessings. Salutations to the hopefully elect. It's a high spirit, we in Judah of the GMS Mississippi camp. All right, coming back at you with another lesson. And it's entitled, or basically is explaining the great disparity between Esau and Jacob, man. And we're going to go into an article, then we're going to go into the scriptures, man. All right? Because no matter how hard you try, like the elder brother Yashawamba said, we're not going to overcome Esau, man, because this is part of the prophecy, man. You know, you got men like Kanye, they want to go past the nigga ceiling and be on Esau's level. And he is not going to happen, man. All right? Esau's not going to let you partake in his kingdom, man. But I'm going to go into it to, show brothers how we are at a low estate in America. All right. This is from the Washington Post. All right. The Washington Post. And it says 1 in 7 white families are now millionaires. For black families, it's 1 in 50. The share of white millionaires in the United States has doubled in the past quarter century, with 1 in 7 white families now worth more than $1 million, according to new Federal Reserve data. 15% of white families reported being millionaires, compared with 7% in the Fed's 1992 survey of consumer finances. The dramatic growth in white millionaires reflected widening economic gulf, with the top 1% of households holding 24% of income in 2016, a record high. It also highlights a deepening racial disparity. The percentage of black and Hispanic households worth more than $1 million has remained around or below 2% since 1992. So right now it's 2018. So that would make it about, 24 years? All right. So roughly 24 years, something like that. All right. It says, we have growing wealth disparities among whites as well, but the white group is so much further ahead that the class of elite blacks is now nowhere near the class of elite whites, said Derek Hamilton, economist at the New School in New York. All right, just going to keep reading. It says, the accumulation of white wealth looks set to continue. The average white household worth about $930,000 in 2016 will accumulate a net worth of more than $1 million by the time the next triennial survey comes out in 2020. Hamilton said, the reported average is skewed by wealthy outliers. The median white household was worth $170,000 in 2016. White families vastly outperform African Americans and Hispanics in several key indicators of wealth: home ownership and equity, investments and inheritance. Much of the growth in white wealth during the past 2 decades comes from the doubling of financial assets, including stocks and bonds, as well as pensions and retirements accounts, according to a Washington Post analyst of Fed data. Equity in their primary residence, as well as equity in non-financial assets such as second homes and other real estate boats, cars, and jewels grew as well, but not as significantly. All right. It says white families are twice as likely as black and Hispanic families to own stocks or mutual funds. 60% of white families invest in the stock market, while less than 1/3 of black and Hispanic families have any exposure to the stock market, according to Fed data. Okay, I want to get to one of the main points. I'll just keep reading. Among American households invested in the market, the median value of white-owned investments rose to $50,000 in 2016, indicating a recovery from the Great Recession. The median value of black-owned and Hispanic-owned investments also rose, but remained below 2007 values at about $12,000. All numbers have been adjusted for inflation. All right. It says when it comes to home ownership, often the largest component of wealth for American families, nearly 3/4 of white families own their homes, compared with less than half of black and Hispanic families. And I read in another article, Akim, that there's something called redlining, where the banks such as Wells Fargo will deny, a loan or give Jake, or basically the southern and northern kingdom, a subprime mortgage for a loan, or a subprime loan for a mortgage, meaning that they will have higher interest rates, which would make it impossible or nearly impossible to own their homes. So Esau has systematically kept Jake out of ownership, man. Okay, Jake has systematically kept Jake. Esau has systematically kept Jake out of home ownership, and home ownership is one of the closest ways to accumulate wealth in America. So there's a difference between your income level and your wealth. All right, because you could make a certain amount of money a year, but what do you own? What liquid assets do you have, such as a house? Okay, reading on. It says, even among homeowners, minority-owned homes have lower values, in part because of racist practices such as redlining. And I just spoke on it. That's a spirit that prohibited them from buying residences in many white neighborhoods. If you are a black homeowner, you are more likely to have a lower value on your home because of neighborhood segregation, said Valerie Wilson, director of the Economic Policy Institute program on race, ethnicity, and the economy. Blacks couldn't purchase in white communities where values were rising faster. The average housing wealth for white families was more than twice that of black and Hispanic families in 2016. White families are more likely to trade up to pricier homes over time, whereas black families are more likely to lose their homes or stay in the same house for a lifetime, said Brendan O'Flaherty, a Columbia University economist who studied the economics of race. Okay. It says the idea of a starter house is predominantly a white phenomenon, O'Flaherty said. Black and Hispanic families are also much likely to inherit wealth than their white counterpart. Black and Hispanic families are also much less likely to inherit wealth than their white counterparts. 1/4 of white households reported receiving an inheritance, compared with 8% of blacks and 5% of Hispanics. All right. The Republican tax plan released last week could further widen the country's gaping economic divide, delivering major gains for the richest 1% of Americans. According to an analyst by the Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center, a leading group of nonpartisan experts. And there was one part that I want to expound on, and I guess, Satan being Satan made me forget to highlight it, but I'm going to go back to it. Just give me 1 second, brothers. Because it actually spoke on something that was biblical through the prophecies, through the scriptures. All right, this is the point. It says the dramatic growth in white millionaires reflects a widening economic gulf. It says the dramatic growth in white millionaires reflect a widening economic gulf, with the top 1% of household holding 24% of income in 2016, a record high. Now, what's the key word? Economic gulf, which means there's a gap, because that's what a gulf is. It's a gap, man. All right, between Esau and Jacob. So let's see where we can find this gulf in a dictionary. It says a gulf, a deep raven, chasm, or abscess, a pit. All right, I'm gonna go to the first definition. It says a deep inlet of the sea, almost surrounded by land. Okay. Oh, here's another gulf. It says, I'm going to get the dictionary, Cambridge.com. All right, or .org. It says an important difference between two things or groups of people. All right, I'm gonna read that again. An important difference between two things or groups of people. Okay. All right, and going back to the article, it says the dramatic growth in white millionaires reflects a widening economic gulf. All right. So let's see how this ties in through the scriptures. All right. This is Luke 16, and I'm gonna read the whole thing. I'm gonna start at Luke 16:20. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores. Okay, I'm sorry. Luke 16:19. There was a certain rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen and fared sumptuously every day. All right, who is this rich man? I'm just going to get to the point. It's Esau, okay? Ultimately, the elites, but Esau has a part of the elites' kingdom, man. All right? Every day, Edomites have a part of the elites' kingdom. And there was a certain beggar named Lazarus, which was laid at his gate full of sores. Who was this certain beggar? It's Jacob, man. Because basically, what are we doing? We're begging for jobs. Jake is begging for welfare benefits. Jake is begging to get treated with respect. Jake is begging to not get beat by cops. Jake is that beggar. He's dependent on Esau. Going back to Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, where it said, the stranger that is within thee will get above thee very high, and he shall lend to thee. All right? All right, verse 22. And it came to pass that the beggar died and was carried by the angels into Abraham's bosom. And the rich man also died and was buried. And in hell he lifted up his eyes, being in torments, and seeth Abraham afar off and Lazarus in his bosom. And he cried and said, Father Abraham, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus that he may dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am tormented in this flame. But Abraham said, remember that thou in thy lifetime received thy good things, and likewise Lazarus evil things, but now he is comforted and thou art tormented. Because the 12 tribes going to be in the kingdom, we're going to rule in kingdom, and the rich man that represents Esau is going to be in torments in the kingdom. And besides all this, between us and you, there's a great gulf fixed, so that they which would pass from hence to you cannot, neither can they pass to us that would come from thence. All right. And that's the point. That's that great gulf fix, man. Okay. So in the kingdom, there's going to be a great gulf fix between us and Esau. But now in Esau's kingdom, it's going to be it's a great gulf fix because, like I read, 1 in 7 Edomite families are millionaires. And with us, it's 1 in 50. That's a hell of a gulf. That's a hell of disparity, man. But with that, I hope you brothers are edified. To the next lesson,